Welcome to Centre Court with Poets and Quants. My name is Matt Symonds, and with my co-host John Byrne, we'll be taking the next 2 days to sit down with the world's top business schools. It's our last MBA festival of the year, ahead of application deadlines for next year. Those deadlines run over the coming months, notably January for a lot of schools will be a big deadline. Now, as the schools have been welcoming their incoming classes, some strong application numbers coming up from all over the world. And that's also true of Centre Court, of course, whether you're joining us from Singapore, Dubai, or the Rocky Mountains, which I know is the case for one of us. If you want to study at one of the world's top business schools, then look no further than the UK. They have an insane number of schools among the world's top 100. And I'm sitting down with three of the very best. We're going to start with an admissions session, and then in an hour, we'll be talking to the career services teams of those schools and the incredible career opportunities that graduates of the MBA programs begin with. It's always a pleasure to welcome David Simpson to Centre Court. David is the Recruitment and Admissions Director at the London Business School for both the MBA and the Masters in Finance. He's got deadlines coming up this week, so this is a lovely break from reading all of those applications. Joining us from Cambridge and the Judge Business School, Emily Brierley. Emily is the head of MBA Recruitment and Admissions. And joining us from the world, Aram's actually joining us from the US, but he's the Executive Director of Marketing and Admissions at the Imperial College Business School. So thank you, all three of us, to get us up to such a bright start to the Centre Court Festival. Perhaps, David, turning to you. I talked about all of those wonderful advantages, just how many great business schools in the UK. Tell us specifically about the London Business School, its mission, its values. You know the place so well.
Sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting us. London Business School, we're a global and vibrant business community in a dynamic city, London. And that's what stands out for us. We've got a truly inspiring environment where diverse perspectives meet, connect. Our aim is to have a profound impact on the way the world does business and the way that business impacts the world. We're 60 years old this year, and we're a globally top-ranked school. So that's a brief summary of who we are, what we do, and what we're hoping to do and help people out with.
David, you're looking very sprightly for 60. Congratulations. Oh, no, it's the school. Right, okay.
Same, really. I mean, you know.
No, I positioned all three schools among the world's best. Is there something, you know, in the career that you've enjoyed so much at LBS that really stands out for you, that brings together that London magic, the global perspectives? What do you love about LBS?
It's just the people, it's the community, it's the strength of the community and the ties all around the world, and I suppose the tightness of that community as well. Just good people. So I'm really fortunate to have spent a long time working to talk to and recruit such amazing people from around the world who now represent us as alumni back in the world. And it's amazing, you know, and just staying in touch with many. I get the odd email from people with, you know, well, I won't say what year groups are represented, but people from a long time ago, and it's great to see them fly.
Emily, I'm sure that the density of doctoral students across all walks of life, you know, that they show up at Cambridge, and that's very much part of Judge and what you offer. But let's share your perspective on the Judge Business School.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. And, you know, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. So yeah, Cambridge Business School, I mean, as the name suggests, is located in the heart of Cambridge. So for any of you not familiar with UK geography, we're about an hour north of London on the train. So not many people realize, but we're actually a department of the University of Cambridge, which I think needs very little introduction. We're an 800-year-old institution, and, you know, our name is synonymous with academic excellence. And that's something that really, you know, the business school's missions really reflects, you know, to be a world leader in business research and education, you know, and inspired by the values of equity, diversity and inclusion and scholarly excellence. And I think, you know, it's something that we're already succeeded in. So, you know, we are ranked #1 for business and management in the UK's research and excellence framework, the REF, as it's known. But we want to generate research that creates real world impact and has a positive impact on business and society. And we aim to, deliver a transformative education to our students. We want to develop them into not just future leaders, but responsible future leaders, who'll not only excel in business, but will also make a positive impact on society and their environment. But yeah, Cambridge is an absolutely fascinating place, where the kind of rich traditions of this historic university meet kind of the cutting edge world leading research that happens across the departments and all the cities and startups that have grown up around it in the city. So I think that's something that makes the Cambridge experience really distinctive.
Right, and we talk about the Silicon Valley, but we talk about the Silicon Fen, which
Yes.
I guess reflects such a dynamic ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Silicon Fen, Cambridge Cluster, the Cambridge Phenomena. There's a lot of names for this, but it's now Europe's most successful technology cluster, and there are huge amounts of startups that have grown up around the city. A lot of them come from the university spin-offs, and our students get the opportunity to get to be introduced to Silicon Fen, to work with some of those companies whilst they're on the MBA program.
Right. Aram, if I can drag myself away from the Natural History Museum and wonderful childhood memories of the Science Museum just around the corner, Imperial's, again, got an extraordinary pedigree. I always think of getting stuck in a lift with someone that was wheeling something on a chariot that looked like kryptonite. I don't know what it was, but it spoke to me about the business school within a heart of a STEM institution. So tell us about Imperial.
Yeah, that's very right. We are one of the world's leading STEM B institutions. We're a leader in global science and technology, and the business school, we drive global business and social transformation through the fusion of business, technology, and an entrepreneurial mindset. I think whenever I'm on campus, whenever I'm walking around the campus, you can feel that there are ideas being generated, that discoveries are happening. Sometimes in labs deep below the ground that I'll never go and visit, but you know that they're there, you know that something's happening. And I think that's what makes Imperial special, is that being in a business school in the heart of that science and technology institution, we're able to fusion the thinking between science and business. And really what we strive to do is attract brilliant minds and provide the environment for environmental entrepreneurial thinking and innovation to happen. And that's really where the business school sits. We sit at the intersection of business and technology, and we see a lot of our graduates go on to either create new ventures, launch new companies, or go on to be working on some of the planet and humanity's biggest challenges. So it's quite an inspiring place to work at. I haven't created anything myself, but I lean in on those that have.
Right. I mean, all three of you, and Aaron, just to stay with that thought, you've all touched upon the academic excellence, your centers of research. Is a business school then uniquely placed to make that real, to build that bridge and think about how it can then impact on society, the way that we do business?
Certainly, that's our mission. For example, at Imperial, we recently launched a new global strategy, and part of that is about science for humanity. And where the business school sits within that is about being that bridge between the ideas, the concepts, the discoveries, and actually helping them come to life in a more commercial way, or bringing the business aspect to it. So we want and we expect our students to be working with students from the other faculties while they're here at the business school. They have the skills, they have the knowledge in the business space, and it's about bringing those two entities together, really. We do a lot of it ourselves to connect, but we encourage and we push our students to go out there and seek those opportunities as well, to take forward engineering ideas, STEM ideas into the business space.
Right. David, you've just received a wealth of applications from round one, but equally you've just welcomed the incoming class. And for a while it was theory, you'd read these applications, the role that LBS would play, the next steps of personal and professional development. So who have you just brought in? Tell us a little bit about the typical incoming class profile.
Sure. So on the MBA, this year we brought in about 430 students. So bang on the target we're aiming for. 45% of the class are women, which we're pleased with the incremental changes going on, but we'd love to get to that parity been aiming for, but that's a really good result. And 90% are international, which is typical of our MBA program. There's no more than 16% from any one country. That's important to us as well. So representing a study group, actually, so no more one person from any nationality. And then, of course, the experiential base as well, the diverse experiences, absolutely essential. There are lots of consultants, bankers, and engineers, but there's an all-important group of people who are coming from healthcare, military, the arts, sport, who can bring together such diverse experiences into London and reflect London. So we're a microcosm of London as ever, and very proud of that. But yeah, it's a fantastic class. So some of the metrics have strengthened year on year, but really just a great bunch of people who are right now in the thick of it. So they've enjoyed the first few weeks of getting to know each other, and now they're hitting the tougher subjects really hard, but still seem very happy, which is fantastic.
Yeah, keep them smiling throughout. Certainly, it's like a Hollywood movie, right? With a very happy ending. And Emily, with the intensity of the one-year program at Judge, you're fitting an incredible amount into the program. Is that something you think applicants were mindful of? Do they arrive already with a keen sense of what they want to explore and how they really get, the most out of the Judge experience?
Sorry, just couldn't find the mute button there. I think it's a mixed bag. I think some people come in with a really they have one idea, they're set on, I want to be a consultant, I want to go into finance, and they're very, very keen on that track, and they arrive with that idea. But as I'm sure my colleagues will kind of attest to, we see so many students arrive every year with one idea in mind, and they go off in a completely different way. And we do encourage students to keep an open mind. The MBA is such a transformative year. It's an opportunity to experiment, to try different things for self-discovery. So we do advise, try not to be too narrowly focused. Sometimes things change completely outside of your control. A company that you were interested in might suddenly stop hiring, or maybe they're hiring different people. So do keep an open mind. And it's also, it's important to reflect on what it is that you actually really want to do, what careers really excite you, what you want to pursue, rather than kind of simply following the crowd. I remember an alumni from one of our events earlier in the year who said, she arrived, she was going to be a management consultant. That was what she was going to do. And 6 weeks into the program, she quickly realized that was not the career path for her. So yeah, it's really important that students keep an open mind. But same as David, our students are at the moment just kind of get into grips with the new city, the new program, how much there is an offer, and just kind of navigating, being a student again for the first time for many of them, for a long time for many of them.
Aaron, when you compare sort of perhaps the headline data, which I sometimes think can be reductive, we talk about average GMAT scores and GPAs, or, working in a particular industry. As you then think about crafting that diversity, what do you then see in bringing together this talented group of individuals that captures the sort of diversity of the incoming class?
Yeah, everyone talks a lot about the headline figures in the programs that we bring in, and we have to, because they set the tone for the type of class that we're building. But I think it goes deeper into thinking about diversity of thought and diversity of experience. That's where I really focus our views on. And what we do in that space is try and ensure that when someone is sitting in a classroom, the people that are around them are going to add value to their experience. That is critical. You are there to be a sponge. You're there to absorb. You're there to learn. And we want that individual to be able to contribute to others' experiences. So we look and understand and think about, well, if this person's sitting in a study group, if this person is sitting in a seminar group of 20, what are they going to add from their experiences today? What are the values that they're going to be able to bring? What are they going to impact on someone else's learning? And that's how we start to evaluate individuals. And so that allows you to look at an individual and see how they're going to survive, see how they're going to perform in the program, and ensure that the class that you build really brings that together. And that at the end of the day, when we when we say Serenara and they start on their journey with us, and we go back to finding the next class, we are comfortable and satisfied that we've built the best class possible. and that the people in that classroom are going to have the best experience possible because they're going to have so much diversity of thought and experience amongst them.
Right. When 430 individuals, David, show up at Regent's Park, I'm sure you must get some of them, even among the bankers and the consultants and the engineers that are, sort of well represented, who are like, that hadn't initially imagined that there might be a place for them at business school. How do you like to sort of break down that barrier? Because what you're all three of you describing is this extraordinary, not just diversity, but collaboration, each of you making that contribution. So how do you like to say to someone, no, truly, there's a place here at business school for someone like you?
I think the main thing is you've got to be able to engage with people and have that conversation and get over the myths. I think sometimes people expect, well, I have to be from finance or consulting. It's like, well, no, a well-crafted class has people from all walks of life, and that's essential. So, I mean, we do it from the stories we tell, from our website, from the events we run, from the people we put in front. And that's the most important aspect of all of this, is seeing and hearing directly from a school students. So in their words, they can describe the experiences they're having. And for some people, they have that imposter feeling. And for others, it's, they're the king of the world. An MBA is a great leveler within days, and our expert faculty know exactly how to run the environment so that everybody feels welcomed and has a voice, whether it's through compulsory cold calling or through just generating the vibe where everybody will want to say, in my country, this is what happens, or in my sector, it's a bit like this. So what you're doing is talking to people about how it's the right attitude to learning that counts, rather than necessarily just what they've done, what they've achieved, which of course is essential as well. But it's all about the attitude and the approach students take. And I think will be very similar, certainly from UK schools, with the kind of factors we're looking for.
Emily, with your comment of 800 years academic excellence at Cambridge, translating that to the MBA and the classroom, where you might have someone that studied art history, someone else politics and philosophy, somebody else finance or business. So as you think about the academic qualities, what is it that you're looking for, perhaps even beyond grades, that gives you the sense, no, this person is going to thrive and flourish in our classroom?
Yeah, I think this is something that we kind of look for in the application. So our essays have been designed to assess candidates' self-awareness, leadership potential, their ability to collaborate effectively. So all softer skills that we're looking for, that we know our students will what we want our students to have, that we know they'll need to thrive in the classroom on the program. And I think it's particularly important, looking at the softer skills, particularly for a one-year MBA program, it's really important that we're identifying students that have those specific skills. So for example, adaptability, flexibility, resilience. A one-year MBA program is incredibly intensive, and you've got so many different time commitments to manage. You're going to be, pulled in lots of different directions with the projects, the curriculum. You're going to have FOMO for an entire year, so we do need to ensure that our students, are able to adapt to changes, that overcome obstacles and challenges. So this is something we would look for in the application. And also, again, at the interview stage as well. So we have the interviews where we can dig deeper into certain aspects of the application and really get to know the candidates better. So we're quite unique in that our admissions interviews are all conducted by faculty. And they're for 30 minutes with a faculty member. So during that time, the faculty is going to evaluate, whether the candidate will meet the academic demands of the program. They're going to assess their critical thinking, what do they do with new information? They'll consider their potential contributions to the cohort and ultimately determine if, the Cambridge MBA aligns with, what their personal and professional goals are.
I suppose, Aram, you offer a portfolio of specialized masters. You've got the Masters in Management for early career graduate management education, but the MBA, perhaps typically late 20s, early 30s, and bringing that professional experience. How do you look beyond job titles? Again, to get the sense of experience. We talked about leadership. Perhaps someone's looking and saying, well, my job title doesn't say anything about being a leader. How do you and your team then help to uncover that and discover the potential?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways. I think the essays in the application are a space for individuals to delve deeper and to be able to bring to life their CV is the way I like to think about it, and their experiences. So we're certainly looking for them to talk to us and share their strengths or what some of their successes are in that essay. Sorry, but similar to Emily, I think it's the interview which really is the founding place for us to delve deeper. And really, when someone comes to an interview, there should be questions. There should be questions that have been generated from the application, positive questions for us to dig deeper and to understand more about certain areas that allow the candidate to then share those experiences in person. And really, the interview is a great way for us to understand the candidate, understand, as I said before, the breadth of their experience. But again, what are they going to bring to the classroom? I think that's so important. We have a 1-year program. It is very quick. There isn't that time to really settle. You're already thinking about your exit really when you start. That's the point of a 1-year program. So you do have to be quite clear at the point of application in terms of what your next steps might be or how you're going to approach those next steps. And so in the interview, we really are going to dig a bit deeper into that and understand, have they thought about it? Can they demonstrate that they've started to put some building blocks into place? How are they going to use us to facilitate that step in their career, that change? As Emily said, people always change. People always discover things. And that's the point of an MBA. They're there to discover, they're there to learn. But you do have to come to the program with a goal and a sense of direction.
Now, all three of your schools are bringing together this extraordinarily talented, diverse, ambitious, open-minded group of individuals. David, natural, and as Aram and Emily have given examples, that you're thinking about the exit and post MBA. What is it that you're looking to understand? Because presumably you're not pinning them down to it. They're going to spend anywhere between 15 and 21 months exploring any number of new opportunities. We'll be talking to your colleagues in career management centres after this session. So what is it that you want to understand about what that post-MBA narrative might look like to the candidate?
So I think it's important to say that we're looking for people who don't have a strictly transactional relationship with the idea of an MBA. So it's not all about the first post-MBA job. Of course, that's vital in terms of paying back loans and kickstarting your career. But in admissions, we look out for people who are obsessing more about that rather than the lifelong value of an MBA that's all important. This thing will change your life. It will change the way you think. It will change the way you make decisions. It, of course, increases your network, to a huge extent, and then teaches you how to use it as well. So I think an open-mindedness about what they're capable of, because at the end of the day, the school is going to help you to be your best, but you're the raw material. So we'll work with you to create opportunities and stand the best chance of achieving. But we need from you an open mind. We need you to understand the employment environment. So if you're looking for a certain kind of role or a certain kind of company, are they hiring as many people as they were last year? What are their strategies? So we need you to be, if not to know it already, then to be in the mind frame to learn that stuff and to have a second choice, have another option, or think of a different route to get to where you want to. So back to that word that my colleagues have used of being open-minded, it's so vital in being agile and recognizing that we don't have placement services. We have teams of people to help you along, give you the best opportunities that you could take.
Right. I guess for our Centre Court viewers, Emily, they might be thinking about the job market David's describing in 2026 or 2027 when they might be coming out of business school. And it's understandable that you'd look at those immediate outcomes. But how do you also like to help them think about a 5-year, perhaps a 10 or a lifetime return on this experience that they've invested in? Because it's not just that first job. This is going to give them opportunities for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, like you mentioned long-term return on investment. That's the key thing here, like David mentioned as well. I think kind of you need to remember that business schools are in the business of developing future leaders, not just consultants or product managers. You know, we want to develop well-rounded and holistic people. We want to set you up for lifetime success, essentially. So, you know, I think it's just really, really important to keep in mind the long-term ROI on an MBA. The skills and the knowledge that you gain will be valuable throughout the rest of your career, but also take advantage of all the resources that are on offer to you on the program, you know, even if they don't align with your current career goals. So make full use of the expertise of the MBA teams, the program team, the career services. They're here to guide and support you, and their experience, and they'll have a wealth of experience. You know, it's invaluable. Don't limit yourself to recruitment events, you know, just specific to your career path. Attend coaching sessions, explore opportunities for both personal and professional growth. You know, you will only do an MBA once, so make the most of it and seize that opportunity.
Right. At both the personal level, Aram, you know, you've gone back to the business school classroom, but then in your role as director of admissions at Imperial, when you think about ROI, typically, you know, the media just focus on, well, you know, salaries, but from both your personal experience and then what you see with graduates, what is a broader way of interpreting ROI, perhaps some of the intangible aspects that emerge from this year-long experience?
I think it's about personal growth more than anything. It's about you as an individual developing a set of skills, a set of values, a network that you know will facilitate you for really the rest of your career. There is the stuff that happens straight away, day one exit, as David and Emily have been saying, and where that might take you. But really, it's about thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 years at least that you're going to see value in terms of skills you're putting into place and then utilizing that network going forward. There was a great piece in the FT, I think today, is talking about executive MBAs, and it was talking about the value between going and doing a one standard course online versus going and doing a program. And it's like doing a course online for a couple of weeks is like downloading an app, whereas going and studying an MBA is a system reboot. It's there and it's there for the long term. And I think that's such a clever way of seeing the difference between the two. And certainly from my own personal perspective in studying our executive MBA, it does feel a bit like that. I'm getting a system reboot. I'm confirming things that I already knew existed and strengthening certain areas, but I'm thinking more about where I'm going to go 5 years from now rather than where I'm going to be in a year's time. And I think it is hard to see that sometimes because you are in a bit of a rat race and you see others, and you can be thinking, oh, I see someone getting a job here, I see that, and your mindset becomes quite short term. But I think that's just a patch in the program that everyone goes through as they start to actually work out, what am I trying to do with this program? What do I really want to be doing? And it's not about, as David said, that job on day one. It's actually about setting up a path for much longer term growth. So to answer your question, ROI is about growth, is about development, but you have to get there, and you have to get to that point to understand that that's what it's about.
Well, I certainly need to reboot. If anyone can make a little bit more hard drive space in my head, I'd be very grateful. This idea of growth, David, I mean, we see it in nature that you provide the right environment and things will grow. So finding that right environment, perhaps with a generation that wants to align where they work, where they study with their own personal values. So what advice do you have to applicants of finding the right program, the right institution, culture, personality for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a huge decision for everybody to take. It, as Emily said, it's a once in a lifetime. You make your decision once on an MBA, or in the case of our one-year MBA, it's a second bite. You know, with our one-year MBA, people coming back after doing a master's in management earlier in their career. But it's about fit, a very overused word in the business school world. But it's the culture, it's the look and feel, it's the do I feel at home? You need to spend time with the people of the institutions you're interested in. You can do that from afar with virtual events. You can do that by talking to people one-to-one. How approachable students are is important as well. That will give you a guide. You might have to ask a few to to be able to get the conversations, because they're all very busy people, alumni and students of business schools, but it has to feel enough like home. So at some point, go and visit. It's not always possible to visit 5 schools in advance of applying, but make sure you've done your due diligence, and by that, you're giving every school a chance. Get past the misconceptions, get past the preconceptions, learn what the spirit of the place is. You might find some surprises from schools you hadn't expected to look at, or you might realize that what you really need was somewhere else. So you should invest a huge amount of time here. That the application is not the first piece of serious work you do when looking at business schools. The research you do before you even put your hand on a keyboard is the most important. Check you're going down the right track. And that comes from talking to students, talking to alumni, looking at the successes, again, with a long-term view. So not what's their placement rate, which is really important and you should do it, but it's also what are these people doing? How do they carry themselves? What are their values? What are their hopes and wishes for the future? What impact do they want to have on the world? Does that align with me? And final thing I'll say is speak to quite a few people within each institution, because everyone's an individual, everyone's a bit different. You'll only get that theme by talking to a handful. Events are great to be able to do that. And visiting is another fantastic route when you have the resources to do so.
Right. Normally we make decisions with our heart and sometimes with our head. I've seen some candidates that have the most extraordinary Excel spreadsheet matrices, so they're trying to think about all of those different factors. But to pick up on what David was sharing, when you're talking to a candidate and helping them to think this through, finding the right program for them, what are the things that you think really cut through and can help them identify that?
Yeah, I mean, I would always recommend starting quite broad and then narrowing down your focus, especially if you're early on in your research. There's so many great options out there and MBA programs now. It can feel really overwhelming. So, a really good place to start would be thinking about what format and what location. So, if I'm doing full-time, do I want 1 year or 2 year? Well, maybe I'm someone that part-time program's better for my responsibilities or my schedule. What about weekend online, executive MBAs, etc.? So that'd be a really great place to start if you're very early on in your research. And also, where do you want to study? Again, kind of start globally and then narrow it down to specific countries or cities. And career goals are really a driver here. So, for example, if you're someone that you want to gain work experience in Europe after finishing your MBA, then it absolutely makes sense to focus on programs in Europe. While most MBA programs will offer global mobility opportunities, there is significant value in studying in a place where, you envision yourself post-MBA. So I think once you know how you want to study and where you want to study, you can really then drill down into specifics. But there are so many different factors at play here, and it will be very different for each applicant. One great piece of advice that I heard a colleague once give a student was, create 2 lists. One is your must-have and one is your nice-to-have, and you will find that the nice-to-have will be the ones that your heart is driving you, and the ones that you must-have is what your head's telling you to do. And that's a really great way to kind of, think what's important to me for an MBA program. So, it might be careers outcomes, reviewing employment reports. Where are alumni now? What industries are they in? You might look at the size and profile of the cohort. Who do you want to learn from and share with, share your own experiences with? We know that's a huge driver for a lot of our students who choose Cambridge, because we have a bit of a smaller class size. They want to be, develop those strong relationships. You need to think about the city itself. Do you want to live there for a year? Will you thrive there? And, the surrounding area. So there are a lot of different factors that can play into it, and they will be very individual. And like I said, a great place to start, think about what's important to you and kind of prioritize those, because that will help with your decision-making process.
Right. Presumably, Aram, at Imperial, to emerge with this idea of science for humanity, as an institution, you've held up a mirror to yourselves of who do we want to be and how that reflects candidates and the programs. So what emerged from that whole reflection about the sort of place Imperial wanted to be and how that might align with the goals and the values of candidates to the program?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that's come out is that we are a powerhouse for entrepreneurship and innovation. And so therefore, what we typically find is that we attract individuals that have that entrepreneurial mindset and are thinking in some form of way about a venture, whether that's straight after the program, whether that's years after the program. I think that's embedded into how we look at candidates, attract candidates, and what they go on to do. And I think the other part is that we are consistently and continually encouraging our students to think about doing things differently. That's innovation, really. Innovation can be many different. You can coin it in many different ways, but it is really about improving and changing and bringing new ideas to the surface. And really, that's how we teach our students. We put them into practical situations where they need to use innovative thinking drawn from their teachings to date, but then working with partners, working with stakeholders, working with companies. We have great incubators on our South Kensington campus and up at White City at Scale Space that we put our students into active learning. So I think when we think about who we are as an institution, it is leaning into that, and it is really trying to say to students or anyone who is looking at Imperial is tackling some of the biggest challenges out there. There's many different ways to do it. It could be discovering the solution. It could be commercializing the solution. We're all connected in that ethos.
Right. You talked, David, about different voices, not just perhaps one voice, but there's an entire community. And as you celebrate this year your 60th birthday at London Business School, at least, someone joining the program in 1964, so they'd be what, the class of 66. I don't know if we could talk to that person, but perhaps alumni from recent years. If I was to sit down to them and say, what were the highlights? What really stood out? What sort of things do you think they would share?
From the alumni back then, or?
Yeah, maybe from the class of 1966. Was caught up in the fever of England winning the World Cup for once, but in recent
more
years.
Recently. Yeah, I mean, those classes will have different views as we changed, as we globalized, but alumni from the second half of that 60 at least, if not more like the 40 years, will reflect on, I think, the connections they made, most of all, and the longevity of those connections and the impact those connections have had upon them. And that's from their classmates, from the alumni group as a whole, from the numbers that are growing year by year, of the newer alumni and the younger alumni coming through, and what that means for them, what they've learnt, and how they've changed as well, and how the business schools help them to change. And it can help them through reflecting on what you learnt, or from going back to school and taking refresher courses from alumni celebration days, or whatever it may be. But it's continuous learning. It's the I'd say community rather than network, because for many, as you get further into your career, it becomes about how you contribute and give back, as well as how much you're taking from it. And I just remember what fun they had as well. I think that's, we talk very seriously about business school and what it can do for you and how you can thrive, but a huge part of it is just having the best year or years of your life and meeting the most amazing friends who you'll stay connected with, people who change your world, change your lives.
So can I just come back to that point? So what's the distinction, David, that you make between a community and a network?
I suppose it's a feeling of family, a feeling of home. A network is to be used, to be utilized. A community is something you're part of that builds and grows and grows. A network can grow, but it can sound quite dry, quite scientific, and it's super important. But with a community, you can ask for all kinds of different things, as well as, hey, I've got this business challenge I need your help with. It'll be looking for people to benefit from something you're doing, as well as getting something back from it.
Right. Emily, we all now want to follow the story of the candidate who wanted to be a consultant for the first 6 weeks and then took another path. We should follow and see where that goes, because there might be many chapters that they write and they'll become part of alumni folklore. But again, if I was to sit down with some Judge alums of recent years, talk about the highlights. What is the mix? Is it the people? Are there moments that they're sharing together that are just so compelling?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely the people, isn't it? Right? It's the connections you make there that they build bonds that last a lifetime. I remember I met an alumni who one of the what he said about his cohort was basically free advice for life, because there was a lawyer in his cohort, there was, an accountant, and he'd just reach out to his cohort and ask for something. So it's definitely the connections. And but I think also for Cambridge specifically as well, it's not just the connections they're making on the MBA, but it's the connections they make within their college as well. So that is such an important part of the Cambridge MBA experience, getting to broaden their network, meet students studying the range of different disciplines, and that can have a lifetime impact. It's not uncommon for MBA students to launch businesses with people they met in their colleges, like an engineer. So similar, what Aaron was saying earlier about, kind of bringing those two worlds together. MBAs bringing that business acumen. I met an alum recently who'd started a clean tech startup with an engineer that he'd met in his college, and they were literally about to start their second venture as well. So, the impact of these connections, not just within the business school, but in the wider university, they can truly have a lifetime impact.
I'm definitely going to hold on to this idea of I've got advice for life from all professions. That's a great one. Aaron, you could probably write your own personal guidebook to London, sport, culture, everything else that, it sort of makes you vibrate. Perhaps that is also part of the alumni reflection of how they've used the city, not just for being in the classroom, but what else has it then offered them as part of this Imperial experience?
Yeah, I always think when you're studying at a business school, it's a bit like a ripple effect in a pond. You have the business school at the heart, you then have the university and how you access the facilities, but then you have the city and what that city provides. And I think somewhere like London, it has everything that a student would really ever need. And I talk to a lot of students who have gone and found networking evenings in Silicon Roundabout, for example, near Old Street, where they're looking to understand about investment and VC, or they've gone to healthcare sector, or they've gone down and had a talk in the Big Four at London Bridge. I think London really does provide an ecosystem for people to really discover and explore in many different ways, and that complements what we do at the business school and at the wider university. And I would always encourage students, don't just isolate yourself just in the business school or your university. Use the city to achieve your goals. Go out there and build even stronger networks. You might only live here for the period of your study, and then you may not be here again until you visit, as a tourist or as visiting friends. So don't let that pass you by. Don't take it for granted that you're just in the city. And as a Londoner, there are parts of the city I have never visited. I would love to go and visit. It's just that big. It's that sprawling. It's that wide opportunity. Go and explore, get lost in it, but remember that you are studying at a business school. So don't forget your studies, but utilize it to the best of your advantage.
Right. Now we're going to follow this panel with colleagues and Lisa Conrad talking about careers and all of the opportunities that alumni of the schools are exploring. So just one final word from each of you, because it's all about connection. And the three of you have generously joined us at Centre Court to be able to talk about your schools and the opportunity to connect. David, a good place to start to find out more, coffee mornings, info sessions, alumni, where might our viewers start?
Depends where you are in the world, of course, but we have a stack of virtual events running. We have regular on-campus tours given by students and members of staff. We have big open days. So next one on the 9th of November, where we'll get everything together in one place. Occasionally we can have class visits arranged as well, or just connecting with student ambassadors. So just finding a voice to talk with to start with. So maybe focus broadly, as my colleagues have said, with a range of people, and then follow into eventually visiting the school when you've amassed more knowledge. And for some people, it depends where you are in the world, but do a tour of schools that are close. So if you come into the UK from overseas, come and see these 3 schools, so you can make comparisons to see which one feels most like home.
I'd love to spend time in Cambridge, Emily. I'm sure that's not a factor, but it's a great opportunity to understand more about Judge Business School. Again, what do you recommend for viewers just to get a better sense of the culture, the personality, all the opportunities?
Yeah, really just to echo what David said, really, it's attending events, getting to know the school, it's talking to alumni and current students. You know, they are the best people to understand what it's like to be a student here. They've been through it, what the career outcomes are like. So, you know, do get in touch with us. We can connect you with them. And also introduce yourself to admissions teams, you know, of any of the programs you're looking for. I think that's really, really important. You know, reach out, connect with them, attend events. Similarly, we have a big Cambridge Judge Business School Experience Day coming up in November. So, you know, come visit us on campus in Cambridge. We'd love to have you.
Great. And Aram, alumni that are then starting their own ventures, no doubt very busy people, how to get the most out of those discussions, being respectful of their time. But, you know, you've got alumni all over the world. What would you recommend to engage with them?
Yeah, I would say the first and foremost is don't send them generic emails or generic LinkedIn messages that it is just soliciting information. Be genuine in your conversations, be genuine in what you're looking for, identify the ones that you really want to speak to for a good reason that is beyond just I'm applying to the business school, can you help me? It should be about their journey to the part to where they are and what they've done, because the alumni are there to support, but they're not there to just give away their time for free to people who aren't genuinely interested. And so it's important that you use them in the right way. The only other thing I'd just add to the points that David and Emily said is read our websites. There's so much information on our websites. There is so much deep information on our websites about the program, about the schools, about the universities, so that when you come to apply, use that information. Show to us that you understand who we are and that the three schools that are here are different. We are, yes, all in the UK, but we all offer different experiences, and differentiate that in your application. It's really important that you show that.
Well, I hope that all three websites see a spike of traffic in the coming days and weeks, and for those viewers that are catching this in the recording. But I think if they've started with the three of you, your voices, I mean, just the enthusiasm that you have, you know what a transformative experience your three schools are. It must be so exciting to watch this personal growth and development that we've discussed. And it's always an absolute pleasure to have you at Centre Court. So David, Emily, Aram, thank you very much for joining us at Centre Court.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.